And as many of you guys know, these boats are constructed with marine grade plywood. And already you can see some of the issues over here. But as you can see, there is some cracking on the floor. Okay, this is completely delaminated, rotted wood in there. So like this hatch here is completely screwed up. I started drilling holes across here. The last thing you want to be doing is throwing money into bad projects. Is this job worth it or not? That is going to depend on a few things. Number one, what is up, guys? I have a good video for you today. We're going to be talking about boat restorations and if they're worth it or not. If a boat is a money pit or is it worth restoring. And here I have a 23-foot Parker. It is a 2003, I believe. I had a gentleman bring me this boat because he had a couple issues with the soft deck and a couple other things that we're going to take a look at. And we were contemplating on whether this boat was worth restoring or not. I know a lot of people like to take on these projects at home, and sometimes those projects that you guys take on at home might seem like they only last a month and they end up lasting a year or 2 years sometimes, and the boat never gets done. I'm going to go over exactly what it costs to do a restoration on a boat like this with the problems that it has, and we're going to go over on if it's worth it or not. I had a conversation with the owner of this boat on whether it was worth it or not, and we're going to talk about that in the end, and I'd like to hear what you guys think, if it's worth it or not. So we're going to go over this boat real quick. This is a Parker. It's a 2003, and as many of you guys know, these boats are constructed with marine grade plywood. So that in itself is a little bit of a problem. Doesn't mean that plywood is bad, but they tend to rot. Okay, so but we're going to be going over everything. So here we have a galvanized trailer. All right, the Parker is not in the best shape. It's got bottom paint, which is old, you know, and it looks like it's hasn't been detailed in a minute. It's got a little repair, somewhat repair here. Okay, but the good thing about this boat is that it's paid off. This boat is paid off. The engine runs, which is a Yamaha 200 HPDI. Let's take a look at that. It's got very low hours as well. This motor runs very well. All right, it's got the trim tabs. And the good thing is that, like I said, this boat is paid off. They don't owe any money on it. The boat runs great. The owner really likes the layout. It works for him and his needs. But it's got a couple of little issues, and he was wanting to fix them or see if it was worth fixing. So the outside of the hull looks great, you know. Yeah, sure, it's got bottom paint. That's something you can maybe take off, and it's dirty. But these boats are really built like tanks. They're really heavy boats. And as far as the ride goes, some people love them, some people hate them. Some people say they ride fairly rough, but they're battle tanks. You know, they're meant to withstand anything. So let's go up there and take a look on the boat. And already you can see some of the issues over here, right? Like this thing here, which is pretty wild. I'm curious to see what's in there. But the thing is, and there's a split over here, right? But I checked this transom, and it is solid as a rock. Okay, there is zero hollow spots anywhere that I can tell. Nowhere. It's all solid. And honestly, a transom like this, that is as hard as it is, even if it did have some moisture in it, it's going to last another 7 or 8 years. No problem. This thing is as solid as it can be. When I'm checking for transom issues, I'm always checking around the through holes here. These are the scuppers all around. The trim tab screws, anywhere that there's, right here, the tow hooks, you'll see that denting in. There's also fluid that comes out of here. That water seeps out of there. And this really doesn't have any of that. Another sign is, you know, you're checking the inside here, those guys, and you'll notice that when that wood starts to rot, it'll start to give and the bolts will squeeze. But we don't have that on this boat, on either side. So that's that. All right, so yeah, so it's got this like delamination here, which I'm curious about. But again, there's no wood exposed in there. That's all laminated, so there's no water getting in here. It might sit in there, but there's no water really getting into the wood. Now, I'm going to cut that open to find out for sure. But as you can see, there is some cracking on the floor. Let's get up there so we can take a better look and go over the entire boat. All right. All right. All right, now this boat has been sitting here for a little bit now, so there's some water and stuff in here. That's not a big deal, but you know, one of the things that I like about this boat is the amount of space that it has. I mean, look at all this space that it's got. This is a very wide boat, or it seems like it's a very wide boat for its size. It's only, you know, it's a 23 foot, right? A nice little hatches up here. Let's take a look in here. Everything else is solid on the boat. The gunnels, I've already gone through all of that, but solid gunnels. Let's see, some stuff in there, right? All of this deck up here is completely solid, and you would expect that up here because of the fact that there's nothing that drills into the deck up here. So therefore there's no rot, so water really can't get in there. So where would water get into a deck coring? Well, it would get in from these guys, this pedestal seating here. All right, pedestal seating, and really the culprit is this guy right here. I mean, look at this. Okay, this is completely delaminated, rotted wood in there. Okay, and it goes up to here as well. So like this hatch here is completely screwed up. Take a look in there. Now this is the bilge. I've gone ahead and checked the stringers. I've knocked on the stringers already. I can see the transom from here. There's no damage to it. There's nothing going on with the stringers, the bulkhead back here. Everything is good. All of this is good. It just seems that the deck is affected. So realistically, the client just wants to use his boat, and he doesn't want to spend a ton of money getting a new one or another one, and he really likes his boat, so he wants to repair it. We're going to go over the cost of how much a repair like this costs at the end, but I'm going to go through what we're actually going to do to this thing. Okay, so you guys know that the deck is already rotted. We already said the deck is rotted, right? So all this has to come out. Okay, well, how do I know how far back to go? Well, what I did was I started drilling holes across here. Okay, I started drilling holes, and I got moist wood up to here, and then when I got up to here, there was dry wood. All of this was dry all the way across. So the water really comes up to about here. So this one was moist, this one was dry. The other one over there was dry. All this was dry. So the moisture really comes up to here. The client wanted a cost-effective repair, you know, but he didn't want to spend $15,000 on an entire restoration of the boat. So what I proposed was basically a cutout of this rear deck area up until here. We're going to take the pedestal seating off, take all that off, take this off. We're going to do a cut. We're going to do a cut where that good wood is, so we don't have to take off the console, because that's an entire project in itself. Taking off the console, taking off the seating is one thing, but taking off the entire console, all the rigging, taking it off is a part of the big part of the expense for fixing this boat, because it takes time to take all that off. So we're going to cut up until here, right before the console. All right, we're not going to cut up until about here, maybe 4 inches from the edge. Okay, we're going to leave a lip all around here, all the way around back here as well. Okay, and we're going to leave a lip there as well. And we're going to take this whole piece out and we're going to replace it with a composite material. One of the things that I mentioned to the owner of the boat was there may be more surprises once I take the deck off. We might uncover rotten stringers. I doubt it, just because of the shape of the stringers that I can see back here. Also the tank could be in bad shape, but these are all things that I'm going to find once I pop open the deck. And that's something that maybe you should keep in mind when you're thinking about taking on a project like this, because there's always gremlins and ghosts that can arise after the fact. You know, you think it's one little thing and it turns out to be a bigger thing. Now this is a 2003, the tank has never been replaced, and you're talking about a tank that's maybe over 20 years. So there's no fuel smell coming from the bilge. There's no fuel leaking in the bilge. So I can only assume that the tank is okay for now, but that's something that the client would have to deal with in the future if he's got to replace it. But as of right now, I don't see a problem with it. I will let him know as soon as I take the deck off. Okay, so let's come back here to the transom area. Okay. So this crack goes all the way over here. There's delamination, right? So we're gonna have to see how far back this goes, how much the water intrusion is, as well as this piece over here. As you can see, it looks to me like when they build this boat, this is a 3-piece construction boat. They put in the cap, the middle section, and that's not really even finished. It's just like gel coat sprayed on there. I have to open this up. There's that crack that comes along this way, and that's from the deck. It's not from the transom, because the transom itself is not cracked. I mean, I've pushed down, I've tested it. It's not cracked, and if there is moisture on there, it's not going to go anywhere for at least a few years. So again, this is a repair that we're doing that is cost effective and that will have the boat not be dangerous. Okay, so we got to fix that. All right, there's some cracking over there. We got to open that up and see what's up with that. And then once we're done with all that we've put in the new coring material, I decided that I'm going to lay down one layer of non-skid up on the whole deck. So we got to sand the whole deck, and we're going to spray non-skid on the entire deck just to get a nice uniform color for the entire deck, which I think is going to be, it's going to make this boat look brand new. And yeah, so because we're going to be using a composite board, these pedestal seats will go right back to where they were. Okay, and it'll grab onto that without a problem, and that'll be the repair for this job. Now, is this job worth it or not? That is going to depend on a few things. Number one, the number one thing that depends on that is your wallet, what your budget is, how much can you afford. All right, a new Parker that's 23 foot is going to run you between $100,000 to $130,000 or more. Okay, if it's a pilot house, even more. A center console is going to run you $100,000 to $120,000. A used Parker is going to run you $30,000 to $40,000 in decent shape. This one's already paid for. This one's got an engine that runs great. It's economical for him. He loves the layout. He likes the boat, and it's paid off, as I mentioned. The name holds its value. Parker boats do hold their value because of the name and because they're tanks. So in my opinion, this type of repair is definitely worth it. This type of repair is going to run you anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 depending on where you're located at. All right, now you think $4,000 to $6,000 on this 20-something-year-old boat, sure, but a used boat is going to run you again $30,000 to $40,000. So in my opinion, this type of repair is definitely worth it. Now, if you are doing this repair yourself, okay, and you're not paying anybody, now it's really worth it because you're saving yourself the labor. Just in the parts for this repair, you're looking at close to $2,000 in just supplies, from the coring material to the glass to the resin the gel coat, all of those things, the sandpaper, all of those things add up, and you're looking at almost $2,000 in just supplies. So if you're doing a project like this yourself, which you can, you may just not have the time for it, or the space or whatnot, you know, you're looking at about $2,000 to fix this. But honestly, even paying somebody $6,000-$7,000 to do this project, to do this repair, is in my opinion worth it for not having a boat payment, an engine payment, you know, and your boat being safe. So this boat is tried and true. If it was going to break any other way, it would have already shown itself in any other way. So yeah, so I believe that this boat was definitely worth the restoration. Now, what makes a boat worth the restoration? One of the things that I mentioned was the name. So Parker is a very popular name. These boats are built like tanks, so they hold their value as well. Other boat names like, you know, the old Seacrafts, Makos, CVs, Contenders, those things have a name, and they're worth maybe investing in that restoration, in that repair. If this was something like, you know, an old Sea Pro or an old Angler or something like that, I'd probably tell you to get rid of the boat and get something else. Unless you really like the boat, it really depends on your budget, on what you are looking to afford. And again, there's ways to save. You can do this with marine grade plywood. Again, I wouldn't, but we're restoring this with a composite board. So you could even save more money there. And also, just because you're buying a new boat or a used boat doesn't mean that the boat's going to be good or it's going to work fine. A lot of those boats come with a ton of problems, even new boats, as you see in some of my videos. Used boats as well. There's a lot of hidden problems that people hide when they're selling their boats. So that's another issue that you got to deal with, you know. And you might deal with the same issue that you have with your original boat, you know, where it has rot or whatnot. So that's definitely something to consider. Yeah, people think that buying a boat is the expensive part. What really is the expensive part is what comes after, all the little things you got to fix and the gremlins that you find. You know, when you do a project like this, if you decide to do it on your own, you can guarantee that the boat is being done right, and you take pride in that. So that's definitely a plus of doing something like this on your own and saving yourself the money. So that's one factor to it as well. The other thing is, you know, you could customize it exactly how you want. If you want, you know, a hatch here, over there, if you want the non-skid to look like this versus this, if you want this type of bench seating, this type of seating versus a, you know, leaning post, you could change the color. I mean, there's so many things you could do. So these are all advantages to trying to do these things yourself. Now, what are some of the jobs that you should probably walk away from? The jobs that you should most definitely walk away from are usually the cheaper hulls, the brands that aren't as popular, kind of like your mass-produced low to mid-quality style boats. You should really run from those. You're never going to get your money back from a boat for the most part. But you should really stay away from those and not really focus on that. If there's massive structural damage, not like what I've shown here, this is not massive structural damage. I'm talking about like a hole in the side of the boat, a crack on the bottom side of the hull or on the keel. You're talking about massive structural damage. I would stay away from flooded boats unless you know how to do electrical work. Stay away from that stuff, because that's a nightmare in itself. You're never going to be able to repair that unless you redo the whole thing again, and that can get costly real quick. And I've mentioned this before, if you don't have any title for the boat you're trying to restore, fix, it's not worth it. Stay away from it. Don't do it. Don't get a title, fix up a boat, and then try to get a title later. Don't do it. It's a big mess. The last thing you want to be doing is throwing money into bad projects, and I see that all over the place. You go on Marketplace, there's tons of boats that are unfinished, that are for sale because people just don't finish them. They don't have the time, you know, so, and they're bad boats to start with, you know. You really have to know when to stop and call it quits. Like I mentioned before, I think this Parker is definitely worth it. If you do the math on something like this, so let's just say that this repair is going to cost you $6,000, okay? And there's no gremlins underneath the deck. It's just this repair and non-skid. and the boat is running great after that, and there's no issues, and the deck is complete, you've spent $6,000, but this boat can probably sell in the market for anywhere between, you know, 16 to 20 something thousand. I would say 18 to 22,000, more or less. I'm gonna look up some of the Parkers and that I find maybe on Marketplace. I'm gonna put them up on the screen so you guys get an idea. So there's that, and you won't get your money back over the years that you've spent on the boat and the repairs you've done, but you won't lose a ton of money either. So that's why I think that this boat is worth it. You couldn't do the same thing with maybe another brand that's not as popular or not as sought after as Parker. You know, even today with boats in the used market being so available, there's really not good boats that are available. And usually the ones that are good boats that are available are really expensive. I'm also going to put a link up here so you guys can see the video of how to check or how to purchase a used boat, and how to actually go through a full walkthrough of the boat and how to check for rod and electrical issues and all that stuff. I'm going to put that link up here. So if you want to stick around and see what I find when I pull this deck up, I'm going to be working on this project for the next few weeks. Let me know what you think, if you think that this project is worth it or not, or you would just dump it or get rid of it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.